April 1942. America was still bleeding. Pearl Harbor had burned. The Pacific Fleet lay broken, and for months the Empire of Japan seemed unstoppable. But in the quiet rooms of Washington, one idea refused to die. Strike back. Not at a distant island, not at a supply route, but at Japan itself. It sounded impossible. The Japanese homeland was thousands of miles away. American bombers could not reach it. Aircraft carriers were too vulnerable, and no one had ever launched medium bombers from a carrier deck before. But Lieutenant Colonel James Doolittle believed they could, not because it was easy, but because it had to be done. The plan was simple on paper. 16 B-25 Mitchell bombers, launched from the deck of an aircraft carrier, fly west, bomb Tokyo and other industrial cities, then continue to China. No return, no landing back on the carrier, just fuel calculations, courage, and hope. The crews volunteered knowing one thing: if anything went wrong, there would be no rescue. They trained in secret, practicing short takeoffs on a runway marked to match the length of a carrier deck, learning to lift heavy bombers into the sky in less than 500 feet. On April 2, 1942, the carrier USS Hornet slipped out of San Francisco Bay. 16 bombers strapped to her deck, a sight never seen before. Sailors stared at the strange pairing, Army bombers on a Navy ship. It was desperation turned into strategy. The task force pushed west across the Pacific. Radio silence, gray water, endless horizon. Then, on April 18, hundreds of miles earlier than planned, they were spotted by a Japanese patrol boat. The element of surprise was slipping away. Admiral Halsey made the decision: launch immediately. The seas were rough. Waves crashed against the bow. The deck pitched violently. One by one, the bombers roared to life. The first aircraft rolled forward. There was no room for error, no space for hesitation, only ocean ahead. The plane dipped toward the waves, then lifted. It worked. 16 times, it worked. The crews flew low across the Pacific, skimming the water to avoid radar. Hours later, the coast of Japan appeared. Factories, shipyards, warehouses, military targets in Tokyo, Yokohama, Nagoya, Kobe. The bombs fell. Physically, the damage was limited. Compared to the firestorms that would come years later, this was small. But psychologically, it was enormous. For the first time in modern history, the Japanese mainland had been attacked from the air. The myth of invulnerability cracked. But the hardest part was still ahead. Fuel ran low. Headwinds slowed them. Night fell. They would not reach their planned airfields in China. One by one, crews bailed out over dark mountains. Some crash-landed in rice fields. Some were captured. 8 airmen were taken prisoner. 3 would be executed. Many were rescued by Chinese civilians who paid a terrible price when Japan retaliated against villages suspected of helping Americans. The cost extended far beyond the 16 aircraft. Back in the United States, news broke carefully. America had struck Tokyo. The headlines were electric. For a nation still stunned by Pearl Harbor, it was proof that the war could be carried to the enemy. Morale surged. Factories worked harder. Bond sales spiked. Confidence returned. Strategically, the raid forced Japan to reconsider its defensive perimeter. It accelerated plans that would lead to the Battle of Midway, a turning point in the Pacific War. The bombs had done little physical damage, but they had shifted momentum. As for the crews, most would return home quietly. Some would continue flying missions. Some would never fully speak about that night over Japan. Doolittle himself believed he would be court-martialed for losing all 16 aircraft. Instead, he was awarded the Medal of Honor. Because the mission was never about planes. It was about belief. Belief that America could recover. Belief that distance was not protection. Belief that even in defeat, initiative still mattered. 16 bombers, 80 men, a runway too short, a target too far, and a message that crossed an ocean. We are coming.